with this thought of conquering the promise.
那我最后要用一个应许来做一个结束。
Has God put a promise on your heart?
神是不是在你心里放了一个应
Is
许？
there anybody here that has a promise on your heart from
在这
God?
里有没有人心里有一个应许？神的应许。
2, 3. Nobody else has a promise. Okay, there's more. Okay, let's go. All right, listen. If you don't have a promise from God, you need to get one.
那如果你心里没有神的应许，
You need to be crying out to God. God, what's your purpose for me?
赶快向神呼求，我的命
What's the inheritance that you have for
你
me?
要给予我的一切是什么？
And then go after it.
那完全的追寻，
We need to conquer the
我
promise.
们必须要来争取。
We need to go after the blessing that God has for
我们
us.
要争取，要神要给我们的祝福。
See, when we think of promises,
当我们想到应许的时候，
many times we just think of money, don't we?
很多时候只想到钱，对吗？
Yeah, God, give me my inheritance now.
啊，神给我的遗产啊，
I shouldn't have to re-preach what I did yesterday.
我不应该再讲一次我昨天讲过的嘛。
See, the promise is more than just money.
所以那应许是超越金钱，
That's the small stuff.
那只是小小的一部分。
Really, we can have a deeper relationship with
我
God.
们可以与神有更深的关系，
We can have a life that has meaning,
我们可以有一个有意义的生
a
命，
life that has influence,
有影响力的生命，
where people look at us and say, wow, that person's different.
人们能够看着我们的生命说那个人不一样，
There's something special about them
他们生命是特别的，
because they can see God in your
因
life.
为他们可以看到神在你
Well,
生
we're
命
not
里面。
victims of our
我们
surroundings.
不是跟着我们旁边的事物走，
You know, where the bondage of our lives dictate our
不会
actions.
让生命的捆绑来决定我们做的事物。
We can have a blessed life.
我们能够有一个充满祝福的生命。
To be blessed means that we've found favor with God.
那得到祝福就等于是受到神的恩惠，
That His goodness is applied to our lives.
他的好进入到我们的生命里。
You know, when God created mankind,
当神创造人的时候，
the Bible says that He blessed them.
圣经上说到他祝福了他。
This is the first action that God did for man.
这是第一个神对人所做的事。
He blessed him.
他祝福他
And He，said, be fruitful and multiply.
他也说要结出果子，然后
That doesn't mean just have a bunch of kids.
那不代表说只是说到要有一大堆小孩，
That's what it meant for Adam and Eve.
那是对亚当夏娃。
You know, if you want to have a bunch of kids, good for you.
如果你要有一大堆小孩的话，就不错。
Children are a blessing from God.
那小孩是神的祝福，
They really are.
他们真的是神的祝福。
But you know, we can have some spiritual kids too.
那我们也可以有一些属灵的婴孩，
Each one of us here in this room
每一个人在这里的每一个
can
人，
have some spiritual kid looking up at us.
可以有属灵的婴孩正在看着我
And
们，
we can be fruitful.
那我们就能够在这方面。
So when we enter into heaven,
所以在天堂里，
we've got all these folks that we're bringing with us.
我们可以有这些人是我们带上去的，
That's what it is to be blessed.
这就是得到祝福。
One man said blessing is this,
有人说到祝福
acceptance,
是接受，
where God accepts us
神接受我们，
and brings us into His kingdom.
带我们进入到他的国，
Inheritance.
那是他的继承的产
Can you
物。
imagine what God has waiting for us in heaven?
你可以想象神有准备了多少的产物，
Deliverance.
然后释放。
If we're in bondage in our mind,
如果我们的脑海有任何的捆绑，
Jesus can set us free.
耶稣能够让我们释放。
Grace.
那恩典，
That if we've blown it in life,
如果我们生命有了错，
if we've made some bad decisions,
犯了错误的决定，
that God can restore us.
神能够重建我们，
Redemption.
那救赎、
Hope.
希望，
That there's something that we can live for.
我们有活着的希望，
Peace in our hearts.
心中的平安，
Knowing that we're right with God.
知道我们跟神有关系，
Salvation.
救恩、
Healing.
医治。
You know, if we're in trouble in our body,
如果我们身体上有
if
任何
we're,
的
if we're in pain in our body,
如果有任何的疾病病
God can bring deliverance to
神
our
能够
lives
释放
and healing to our soul.
来医治我们，
It's a blessing
是一个祝福，
that we can have,
是一个我们能够拥有的祝福。
but we need to conquer these promises.
但我们必须要来争取这些
You，see, it's not just going to come to us.
所以这不会只是平白的知道我们
We've
生
got
命，
to go in and possess it.
我们必须要进去来领取。
God didn't just take the children of Israel
神不是只拿起以色列人
and dump them in the promised
就
land.
丢到应许之地，
Okay, there you go.
然后说啊这样就去了，
No, they had to go in and fight.
不是他们要进去里面来征战。
David didn't just say to Goliath,
大卫不是对歌利亚，
hey, you need to leave.
你要离开，
No, he took a stone in his hand
不是他是拿起石头，
and he threw it at him.
然后丢他，
And this little Success is 10% opportunity,
成功是10%的机会，
but 90% hustle.
90%的努力，
We got to go after it.
我们必须要来争取，
We got to put some labor into it.
我们必须要出一点力。
Solomon says time and chance happen to everybody.
机会、时间，每个人都可以。
And so we hear words like that and we just sit back and wait for our opportunity.
可能听到这些话，我们就坐着等我们的机会。
But I want to tell you, nothing's going to happen if we're not doing anything.
但我告诉你，如果我们不动工的话，完全什么事都不会发生。
The Bible says that plans belong to man,
那圣经上说到，计划是属于人的，
but the victory belongs to God.
但胜利是属于神的。
We have to prepare for the day of battle,
我们要准备战争的那一天，
but God brings the victory.
但神会在神
We have a part to play in this.
我们是其中的
We have
一
to
份，
put an effort into
我
this.
们必须要出一份力，
And then God will bring increase into our lives.
那神就能够来祝福、来增进我们的生命。
So when we come to the threshold of the promised land,
那当我们来到应许之地之前的那，
we got to settle something in our hearts.
我们心中必须决定。
Joshua says, choose today who you're going to serve.
约书亚说，决定今天你们要服侍谁。
As for me and my house, we're going to serve the
我因
Lord.
我的家，我要来服侍耶和华。
Now that makes your heart just stir, doesn't it?
那这样就会让你的心里有真正的
You know what? But it needs to be more than just words.
真的必须是超越话语的，
It's got to be something in our heart that says, God, I'm surrendering to you.
在我们心中必须要完全
I'm
相
going
信
to believe you enough to go after my
我要
promise.
相信你，完全来夺取我的
And
应
just
许，
take steps of faith.
然后踏出信心的那一步，
That to me is a real decision.
这就是一个真正的决定。
That to me is somebody that steps forward
愿意踏出第一步的
and
人，
is claiming their promise
来争取他们应许的人，
is somebody who's decided in their heart, I'm serving God.
就是真正重新决定要顺服于神的人。
Anything else is just playing games.
其他的东西都是玩游戏的人。